Leafs reporter for TSN. It's Mark Masters. Mark, thank you so much for doing this. Can you believe we're in this scenario given what transpired, 8 days ago in the Monday podiums?
Well, I guess after Monday, I could, because Monday was so kind of strange. You don't usually hear that, right? Kyle Dubas emotional, saying he's not sure he even has it in him to continue on. He has to talk to his family. So that immediately is something incredibly different, because until that moment, the entire exit interview, locker cleanout day, whatever you want to call it, had been really kind of going to script, with the players saying things that are very similar to what they've said in the past, waxing poetic about how much they like the culture that Kyle Dubas has built, how much they enjoy working with him. And then to hear him say he's not sure, it sounds like it raised some alarm bells with Brendan Shanahan as well. So we did not see that coming. That's one of the more fascinating news conferences that I've been a part of, especially in the context of a locker cleanout day where everything is pretty scripted. You talk about it. How are we going to frame this season? And especially Dubas himself had been a guy who in the previous cleanout days had been very strong. If even the Montreal, after that series, I guess he understood he had to be even stronger in his support of the players. So to hear him talk about that, and to talk about how he might have to adjust his plan, there's a lot of stuff that kind of reshaped the conversation around the Leafs. And then a few days later, you could kind of feel it coming the longer it went, that he would not be back. But one of the more fascinating weeks I've ever had covering the Maple Leafs, that's for sure.
I laughed when Brendan Shanahan's apologies for the news dump on Friday. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. But thoughts on the Dubas letter here on this Tuesday? Just came out about 40 minutes ago or so.
Yeah, not much really to look at with that. He's not engaging really with Brendan Shanahan gave was an 11-minute opening statement breaking down how the negotiations broke down. That was something I had. That was another incredible moment in a crazy week for the Leafs. I read it. It's the way Dubas carries himself here. He's not going to get engaged in this. I think just reading it, he said that he wasn't decided yet, right? And in that time, he was still working things out. So that was the one thing that stood out to me, because obviously Shanahan had mentioned that he had gotten an email from Dubas on the Thursday before the Friday, where he was dismissed, saying that, I want to still be the GM. So, there's not much to take from that. Good to hear from Kyle Dubas. And the question, I guess, now is, will we hear from him in the context of him being part of another team sooner than later?
Yeah, the rumors are already spiraling out there, whether it's Pittsburgh or the Ottawa Senators. But I want to get back to the podium on Friday from Brendan Shanahan, because I think it was just so unique in so many different aspects that, you cover this team on a daily basis. How often do we truly hear from Brendan Shanahan? And number two, when he does speak, how elaborate does he get? I was stunned. My jaw was hitting the floor just watching that. Just the detail he went into through the entire week. I didn't see that coming. Did you?
No, because I guess he could have just come out and said, listen, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
We've decided to move on, and I'm not going to get into it. But clearly it was almost like you're watching a breakout play out in real time, because it was emotional, right? Kyle was emotional, and Shanahan, although there was no emotion in maybe his voice, there was the emotion in what he was saying. And he's like, listen, I want you to understand, because he wanted him back, right? At least, that's what he's laying out is we wanted him back. We thought he did a good job at the trade deadline. We were all this week, and, he felt like that Monday news conference, he advised Dubas not to do it. It just didn't feel like they were on the same page anymore. And it felt like he's like, I'm going to make it very clear exactly how this happened, which I appreciate. Of course, the media is going to appreciate. And I think it's good for the fan base to understand. The more information, the better. You got to respect this fan base is covering. They want to, well, how did this happen? How is Kyle Dubas not the general manager anymore? So he laid it out very clearly. I think just talking to some of family and friends is they're the most interesting thing is that they were happy with the job Kyle Dubas was doing, because there would have been, I think, an argument to be made that it was time to make a change regardless, just because this didn't seem to be yielding the results that they were looking for. But Brendan Shanahan made it very clear on a number of occasions that he really liked the job Kyle Dubas was doing, and that what he did at the deadline, and they seemed, with the hockey stuff to be, on the same page. So it was a different situation, because you're right. I don't think we had not heard from Shanahan in a news conference since the locker cleanout day the year before, where he sat beside Dubas and talked about the season. So it had been a while. So anytime he's at a podium and you have a chance to get him on the record, it's interesting, whatever he says. And the fact that he would be so open and detailed about how this broke down speaks to how unique the situation is.
Hey, you don't need to comment on this, but I come from that world, the corporate world, and I know the PR spin to everything. So I was not as shocked, I think, once he started going in detail, because you got to get ahead of these things. And certainly, I think Kyle Dubas will take the high road in this situation. But yeah, there's just so many fascinations with this whole scenario. Obviously, from the Dubas thing, how it played out on Monday, to Shanahan speaking. You've got a pulse on this team. It really feels like a civil war right now with the fans. Like, you got the Dubas backers, you got the Shanahan backers, and you got the people in between. Like, it really is chaos. And I just think this whole doom and gloom scenario is overblown. I don't know if you feel the same way. I think last time I checked, there's still pretty damn good players on this roster.
Oh, for sure. A lot of teams would love to be in this spot. They have the talent, and they just have to figure out, what do we do? I think that the angst comes from the fact that there isn't a clear path forward, unless you believe that just keeping it going, like the whole idea kind of was like, you got these elite guys, you just give them enough cracks at it, it's going to work out, and it hasn't yet. And now all of the contracts that created a lot of angst many years ago are back up soon. Clearly, obviously, Austin Matthews and Nylander can sign extensions this summer, and if they don't, that's going to create a whole different set of stories that carry into next season, and then Tavares and Marner not soon behind. But yeah, I think the angst comes from the fact that it's just not clear. Do they need to make a big move? Well, Shanahan kind of, backtracked a bit on that. Dubas in his comments on the Monday said everything's on the table. I might have to adjust my plan. And Shanahan said, well, the timeline might not be the way everyone wants it to be. Change for the sake of change isn't always a good thing. They have these guys. They have like some of the best players in franchise history on the team right now. And that's a special thing. It's just, you want to make sure you maximize it. But as we sit here today, this is a team that you go to bed and they're making the playoffs the next season, no doubt, and they're going to have a strong regular season. And there's just not every team can say that. So they are still in a as much as it might feel like things are disorganized right now, they're still in a very good spot.
Look, Mark, am I stretching this narrative? Like, to me, I can draw a lot of comps to the Toronto Raptors, where you have to make some tough decisions sometimes. And Kyle Lowry, I'm trading your best friend. And I think you look at the relationship fostered with Kyle Dubas and Austin Matthews, and to an extent, I can draw some comps. Can you? Like, I think sometimes decisions are going to be made, and maybe they're tough ones. And in the short term, they don't look great. The long term, they could look good. But there's an element of risk with anything in life, no?
Right. 100%. And you know what you're getting with these guys in the regular season. You're hoping there's more there in the playoffs. But Marner's a 100-point guy. I know he's come up a bit short in that category the last couple, but he's a 100-point guy who's nominated for the Selke Trophy. William Nylander is a 40-goal guy who makes you believe there's even more there. So maybe there's another level there. I think he can score more than 40 goals for sure. Austin Matthews, his minimum season is 40 goals. He's going to probably be better than that next year. John Tavares, he's getting on in years, but even though he is getting older, he's still a point-a-game guy. So you've got a great baseline there. And is there more to give in the playoffs? For sure. I mean, we've seen what happens. The offense seems to dry up, but do they need to make a big trade? I found the interesting reporting from Chris Johnston, the TSN Hockey Insider, said that Shanahan spoke to the key players, and kind of those players, his reporting is that they left out conversation feeling like they're back, probably, like that there might not be that big move coming, that they might not need that core shattering trade or core altering trade. We saw it worked out for Florida, right, with Matthew Tkachuk, but it didn't work out for Calgary, right? They missed the playoffs. How much of that was coaching? There's an argument to be made for that, of course, but it's a tough needle to thread, right? It's tough to make a trade like that and come out better and be in a better position. And until Florida snuck into the playoffs, it was not looking so hot for them either this season.
Exactly.
So the margins are so thin. And now you got a guy coming in, whoever it is, who's going to have a short period of time to figure this all out for next season at least. So it's a tough spot. So you can understand why they're pumping the brakes a bit and saying, well, maybe it's not going to happen this summer, and they'll see how the start of the next season goes. And maybe it might be as simple as a coaching change, right? 3 of the 4 conference finalists have a first-year head coach. So that always is the easiest thing, more than a trade. And we'll see. We don't know the future of Sheldon Keefe. That's going to have to wait and see what the GM says. But it wouldn't be a surprise, obviously, if a new GM wanted a new coach.
Yeah, personally, I think everything's still on the table. I mean, like, what are they going to tell these guys? No, we're going to trade you all. Like, I think you have to do some damage control at this point in time. Maybe it's because I watch too much reality TV and specifically Big Brother. Damage control has to be part of the game right now, Mark, and I think they got to do their best. Like, guys are obviously pissed off, but I'm sorry. You got to win. If you don't win, there are going to be changes. It's pretty simple as that. I loved Kyle Dubas as well. It was unfortunate it didn't go in the right direction, but they move on with this search. So the clock starts to tick. I mean, you referenced it, man. Like some of these no trades kick in on July 1. It's a big job ahead. What kind of timeline do you think you would give to a role like this? Is this something they have to figure out in the next couple of weeks?
It was kind of, I was reading back the transcript of Shanahan's comments. Like, I want to be thoughtful and thorough, but it has to happen like really soon. Talk about a tough needle to thread here. So I'd expect it to be kind of I don't think they're going to be interviewing everyone under their sun. They've got a pretty, if you're going for a guy with experience and you're looking at specific GM experience in the National Hockey League, it's a shorter list. So I don't know. It's got to be pretty quick. I am expecting something, as Shanahan said, relatively soon here. They can't waste time. The draft is looming. They don't have a ton of picks, but they do have that first rounder. They got to get, we talk about the core four. What about the Matt Murray contract, right?
True.
I mean, that's hanging out there, right? Like the goaltending situation. If you want to, they got to sign Samsonov. They got, Joseph Wall's shown can be part of that. Like, I think most people are looking at Samsonov Wall as a good tandem to start next year with. But what do you do with Matt Murray? You got to figure that out, and you got that first rounder, but how do you, it's going to be tricky. There's a lot there for the GM to sink his teeth into the new one. So yeah, they got to move fast, but they also have to make the right decision. That's why I think there's a lot of the fan base is feeling like it's a step back to what it used to be, where it felt like everything was kind of on tilt, and was there a plan? And to your point, Nick, that might be why Shanahan is telling the guys, like, listen, we still have a plan. The plan is to build around you guys. We believe in you guys. Because remember, Dubas said that, but that was, they were on the same page hockey-wise, Shanahan and Dubas. They believed in building around these guys, and Shanahan, based on his comments, it's, he feels like he still believes that could be the case.
I don't envy the job for sure. As we wrap, the chat is on fire here on YouTube. Everybody loves Masters Nation, number 1, but I don't know if you know where this is going, but number 2, the pineapple wallpaper. People are loving it. You got to bring us the backstory on this, Masters.
Oh, my favorite fruit. No, I you know what? It's funny. My wife, this is when we came in here, I don't even know. Like, there's no story. We just like the way it looked, to be honest with you. That's how Masters Nation rolls. You like the look, you go with it. You don't hesitate. So I love pineapple. I think it's one of my favorite fruits. I don't know about my fruit power rankings, but it would be really, really up near the top. But yeah, it does catch the eye. And, I'm a tennis guy, and the top of the men's championship trophy's got a pineapple there. So maybe there's something to that as well. But yeah, I just like the look.